All right, Ryan, another edition of Riding Home without Dean, just the Matt and Ryan show this morning. Lot to talk about, Ryan. Transfer portal stuff, obviously, recruiting signing day just around the corner. A lot of triggered Tennessee fans out there about the Heisman Trophy. Hendon Hooker not, going up to New York, but Stetson Bennett is. A lot going on. Let's start with transfer portal news. Obviously, Georgia saw Bill Norton, a reserve defensive lineman, enter the portal. Do you have names of a couple other guys that you might have your eye on?
Yeah, I could see maybe a backup offensive lineman or two. The guard position's probably not going to change next year. It's the tackles that might shift. So maybe like a backup offensive guard. But it's going to be the same thing as last year, where a lot of guys are going to go to the draft. Is it going to be go 15 first round or 15 people drafted? Probably not. That'd be crazy if they did that 2 years in a row. But it'll be other guys' turn. If a quarterback transfers, my guess would be Brock Vandegrift, just because he'd have to beat out who's likely going to be Carson Beck. Um, I don't think any of the running backs will transfer out. Kenny McIntosh is probably going to declare for the draft, I would imagine, after this playoff run. But I think with what they're building here, there's not going to be a ton of transfer outs.
Yeah, I think you're right. And let's talk about Brock Vandagriff for a second. But first, I think there are a couple defenders, maybe guys like MJ Sherman, who haven't played a ton so far in his career, could go back. He's not from the state of Georgia, neither Xavier Sori, another five-star guy who hasn't played a ton. Seems like a lot of guys are kind of passing him on that depth chart. So a few defenders wouldn't surprise me at all. But with Brock, I mean, this was year two, and he's not completed a single pass at Georgia yet. It doesn't look like he's going to be the guy next year either. At some point, if you want to play, it's going to have to be somewhere else because eventually you have to play. At quarterback,
Yeah.
you only have one starter. And if you want to be that starting quarterback, you can't do it till after year three of being on the bench somewhere. So, as talented as I still think he is, I know he's got some growth and development to do. With his accuracy, I think that's something that you pointed out at times. Closest or sources say that he's got the arm talent, he can move. Got to be more consistent throwing the ball accurately. But he was a five-star for a reason. I think the kid can play, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a place like Georgia. Justin Fields had to transfer. He was not beating out Jake Fromm. He knew if he wanted to start somewhere, he had to leave, or else he'd be on the bench next year again at Georgia. So worked out for him, and it works out for a lot of guys. But it's just crazy to see so many quarterbacks enter the portal year after year. JT Daniels back in there again. Keaton Slovis
Yeah.
back in there again. I mean, it kind of seems like the same guys over and over. So I get why he wouldn't because there's so many options, guys already in there. But at some point, he needs to play, and I hope that he does succeed somewhere. So just a few things to keep an eye on there. Um, you want to talk about the Heisman a little bit?
So
Were you surprised that
so
Stetson was a finalist? I was a little bit.
Yeah, Dean and I hopped on and talked about it a little bit yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
But
And he's going to be up there. So when you're watching this, make sure to stay tuned to DawgSTRUCTION for all the latest Heisman coverage. But I guess he's earned it, Ryan. But if y'all talked about that, we can talk about
I
something
mean,
else.
we talked more about like what's up with all the hating. Why are people
Yeah.
so mad about it? And part of it was the Hendon Hooker thing. Something that I wish I don't know how long it would take me to figure it out. I'd love to see what all their numbers are if you take away everyone's second half stats. I would be very
Yeah.
curious to see what the number, because all these big games, all of his stats come in the first half. So, um, I think with the way the pool came out, it's not crazy that he got there. I don't think he'll win though.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking earlier, if you put the Oregon game in November and that performance and put maybe
Yeah,
Kentucky at the beginning of the year and his performance against South Carolina, with juking guys out of their shoes for touchdowns, if you put that towards the end of the year,
yeah.
it might help a little bit. But it's a question that I asked probably like once in the offseason. What's it going to take for Georgia to have a Heisman Trophy winner because they are so balanced. And with Kirby, when they've got the game over in the third quarter, like you said, there's not going to be a whole lot of fourth quarter stats and numbers. And they don't play Auburn at the end of the year, which could give them, that big Heisman moment in November. That's earlier in the year. But that Tennessee game is going to be big moving forward. But yeah, there is just so much going on. We got Army Navy this weekend, bowl season coming up. Is there any particular matchup that caught your eye a little bit? Either Alabama, Kansas State, Tennessee, Clemson. That one game you want to watch before the semifinals get started.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in the Rose Bowl, man. Utah, Penn State. I think the Rose Bowl has been fun. Um, most of the last like 5 or 6 years, it's been a pretty good game. The first, I'm dating back to Penn State USC in 2016. That's been a really really great game almost every single year. I think Utah's a fun team to watch. So I like that one. My problem is with all the sit outs. That's going to just get worse and worse every single year with people
Yeah.
sitting out. Um, so there weren't a lot of games where I was like, because if you look at who's sitting out, it's just not as attractive. So there weren't that many games I got super pumped about.
Yeah. I think Clemson with the new quarterback
Yeah,
playing the old
I
Tennessee, I
enjoy.
thought that would be a great
Yeah,
game.
yeah, I enjoy
Um,
watching Cade Klubnik. I had one Heisman question for you actually, because it was more of a you question. What does that mean for Georgia's recruiting, if anything, that Stetson Bennett got there out of all people?
oh, I know it. I know at quarterbacks, they're looking at Todd Monken, the guy they have committed in the 24 class, Ryan
Yeah,
Puglisi out of Connecticut. I got to know him and his family really well, and they said, "Hey, look what Todd Monken is doing with a guy like Stetson Bennett. We know we can go in there, with as much talent, if not more, right, as a top 100 kid in the country. What are we going to be able to do in this system if, he's doing this with a guy like Stetson, who is more talented than people think. He has a
yeah,
stronger arm than people think, and he's running better than I think people still give him credit for. So he's a talented dude. There's no doubt about it. But when you're a 4 or 5 star guy and you think you're the best in the world and you're saying, wow, look at what they're doing at Georgia. Not only can they run the ball when they want to run the ball, not everything is on me, but they're going to give me 5 star offensive linemen, 5 star tight ends, and all these weapons. And I can be a Heisman finalist and, check that off the box too. It's an intriguing place to play. Now it's still not at the level of Ohio State where just 5 star quarterbacks just walk in there and they know that they can recruit the best quarterback in the country just about every year and get him. But I mean, they're going to run the ball and they're still running back university to a lot of guys and they're still, bringing in stud running backs all the time. Um, but yeah, seeing Stetson Bennett in New York for the Heisman, it's good for Georgia. It's good for Todd Monken. It's good for Kirby. It's good for everyone, even though no one really expects him to win.
no, it'd be funny if he won. I think it would be funny more than anything. Like, I think my
It'll
first
be
reaction, and then not to make fun of him because I think he
yeah,
deserves to be where he's gotten, but just because of how the internet will just implode on itself.
yeah. Well, and Dean will be up there, so we'll get some good
He's going up
coverage and
there,
content out of it. Yeah, yeah.
man.
Um, Real quick, the Buford Wolves have a lot of young talent. I think a lot of
Okay.
those guys might be heading to Georgia in the 24 class. Signing day is just 2 weeks away. They're loaded defensively. Said that this might be Kirby Smart's best defensive class that he signed since he's been at Georgia, which is saying a lot. But they are bringing in some big time players on the defensive line, three superstar like linebackers, and plenty of long athletic defensive backs. They've got a bruising running back from San Diego coming in, two pass catching tight ends, maybe a third coming. So very deep class. I think they could push for that top spot. But in the 24 class, Buford's loaded. They're loaded in 25. And while the high school, as you know, hasn't really been good to Georgia the past 20 years, I think that Buford streak might come to an end depending on what time today is actually and moving forward.
Okay.
So as a Buford guy, just wanted to throw that out there. So big
Well, I know
recruiting news
I
coming
saw
on the
Mill
way too.
Creek was ranked like one of the 15 best teams in the country, something like
Yeah,
that.
state championships start today. Schley County gets it off in single A. They've got two guys with Georgia offers. The number one player in the state, in my opinion, in the 25 class plays down there. They've got a kid at Swainboro plays today. They've got a kid with a Georgia offer. Prince Avenue Christian, the school that Brock Vandegrift played for. They've got a junior quarterback who's lighting it up. And then Mill Creek in 7A against Carrollton, led by a freshman quarterback. Easy 5 star, could be the number one player in the country in that 26 class. So a lot of really good games. So this is one of the best times of the year, right after Thanksgiving, right after kind of college football regular season ends. We still have high school football going on. So I know I love it for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's good. I do hate the. It's nice to have a break. I will say, like, because this will be my first weekend where I don't have to
Yeah,
travel to a game since
yeah.
I guess October like 24th or whatever, the bye week.
It,
But
it was a grind, man.
dude, it was
People
a
get it because we
grind.
do the riding homes, but driving from Mississippi and back, driving to
Dude, it
Kentucky
was a
and back. You
lot.
made the trip to Missouri.
Missouri.
Thanks for doing
I'm
that.
pretty exhausted. That month
Jacksonville's never easy.
From Jacksonville to this past weekend, I was like, man, this has just been a lot.
Well,
Uh,
next year it's easy because, as you know, you did this last year too, cover the
yeah,
national championship, and that's when you have the farthest drives are to Jacksonville, Nashville, and Knoxville and Auburn. So you're
and
not
those
really
are all
going
simple.
outside of all that. So
It's the I guess
um,
it's the years. I think the schedule's just gonna change and change though. I don't think
yeah.
it's gonna be. I
Well,
mean,
we got
two
lucky that
years.
uh,
So next year, but then
semifinals in Atlanta, which really helped us out. But th-
yeah, that it is nice that it's
yeah,
underrated that it's in Atlanta as far as travel goes.
yeah, they do a
Um,
great job.
but it can get boring in the like the 2 3 week lull where there's just no game.
Yeah, it's weird right now not looking at a team and trying to see what they do and whatnot because we have like weeks before
Yeah,
Georgia's next game. So different week for sure, but of course that's what recruiting coverage now. The staff has been on the road seeing kids all week. I mean, they're grinding as hard as anyone. Not only do they have to prepare for Ohio State, but they have to close strong in this class with signing day on the 21st. And now it's recruiting and extending offers and getting
yeah.
all that stuff done while being able to show off an SEC championship, trophy on your phone. Hey, this is what we had back in Athens. Look at this trophy case. So it's a lot easier to recruit when you still have 1 to 2 big games left in the season. So I do think they're going to close strong there for sure. And it's only going to help them dominate in 24 and 25 if they win and go back to back because they are turning into the new Alabama on the recruiting trail, recruiting, getting guys basically whoever they want. They're not missing a ton, and it's only going to get better. So
Are they finishing with the number one class this year? Is that going to happen?
I think it could. It all depends on what outlet you look at. They rank kids all different, but in my opinion, if you get your top guys, that's all you can ask for, no matter where
That's
they're
true.
ranked. If the staff likes a kid who's ranked number 76 more than a guy who's ranked 23, and they get that guy higher on their board, it may not look like it, in
Yeah.
online, but in their eyes, they got their top A and B targets. So it all depends. Not everyone agrees. Kirby doesn't exactly agree with the analysts who are ranking these guys, so it's nice to say, hey, we signed the number one class. It's nice to put up there, and the kids love it. And the staff, they like it. They like to be the number one class. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting your top targets. If your number one target chose Ohio State or Alabama and you had to settle for 2 and 3, you still might have the number one class, but it could have been better, right? So it all just kind of depends. But I know I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, we got 3 weeks left till Ohio State. Thanks for everyone for watching. As always, we got plenty of coverage coming up over on Dog Post from Atlanta and hopefully from Los Angeles, Ryan.